I got all my books here. It's back to school week. I've called it, or reading week here on Winning Begins at Home. We typically don't talk a lot of books, but I'm a big reader. I love to read. It's been so helpful to me to think about what other people are writing, and I think some of the best leaders I know are heavy readers. And so I just wanted to spend some time this week sharing some of my favorite books. We talked Inner Excellence with Jim Murphy on Monday. The Divine Conspiracy, my favorite book of all time besides the Bible. Dallas Willard, Tuesday. Necessary Endings. We talked about some of the things that we need to end there. Henry Cloud on the middle of the week. And then yesterday, Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art. Just our battle against procrastination. I hope you checked out those episodes this week and took some of the tactics and ideas for action that we gave you and did something with those. But today I want to close the week with another great little book. It's called Die Empty. It's similar to the book that I read yesterday, and it really ties into a couple things we talked about this week, from excellence to procrastination. But Todd Henry wrote this book, and his subtitle, Unleash Your Best Work Every Day. Sounds kind of crazy for a podcast about winning outside of work, but this book's so good. And really the things I want to share with you today are not work related. But a couple things he says early here. He's talking about when our life is flush with obligations and pressures. How many of you can relate to that? You got so many obligations, so many pressures at home. He says the first thing that often gets the boot is our relationships. And man, this is so true. If we're not careful, if we really want to die empty, think about this. We want to do our best work, yes, but we want to have our best relationships. And we say all the time, I said it a couple of days ago, if you win at work and you lose at home, you still lose. And I reminded a group I was speaking to last week about this, and the CEO comes up to me and he's like, that is dead on, man. We don't want to build a great company and blow up our family. It's like we understand the importance of relationships. Where if we're not careful, we get so many obligations, so many pressures, so many emails, so much stuff going on that the next thing you know, we've begun to pay less attention to the things that we should be paying the most attention to. And so he goes on to say, when you isolate yourself from other people, you cut yourself off from some of the most valuable opportunities to grow and collaborate. And that's true in business, but it's so true at home. So many of us are not in the relationships we need to be because we're not focused on those and spending the time in them that we need to. A couple other things he says, people nearly always admit that they aren't living their life to their own standard of excellence. So we know we have this standard of excellence. We know that the resistance is real from yesterday. We'll admit that, but what is it that's holding us back? And I thought this was so powerful. He says, so many times our actions define us, not our intentions. That's really what's going to define you when it's all said and done. If you want to die empty, it's going to be your actions that are going to define you, not your intentions. All of us have great intentions. Somebody told me one time that good intentions pave the road to hell. It's like, that's not really true, but it is. They don't pave the road to a good place. I can tell you that. We have great intentions, but we never get anywhere if we don't take any action. And so I want to just challenge you today to go back to our yesterday's discussion. Are there some places in your life, some things that you've been putting off that you know you need to do? Maybe it's order these books. Maybe it's put some time on your calendar to spend reading every week, or maybe it is a relationship that you've been needing to take care of. You've been needing to nurture. You've been needing to take responsibility for some of the things that the relationship's not where it needs to be, but you've been blaming it on somebody else rather than taking responsibility yourself. What could you do to take ownership? And I want to encourage you today to really give that some thought. And then one more thought here from Todd as we end the week. Couple more, actually. One more page here that really stuck out to me. He says the most important shift that one can make is toward a mindset of intention and purpose. In other words, we need to have intention. I'm not saying that our intentions are bad, but we need to have intention and purpose. Our mindset shifts toward that, but then we need to understand that it is action that is going to fuel intention to that place that we want to go. And I love this. He says, orienting your life around making a contribution, around meeting the needs of others, is actually the key to finding personal satisfaction. And that goes back to what we talked about a couple of days ago. The good person from the divine conspiracy. It's the really good person is the one who cares about the good of others, not just their own good, the good of others. And again, Todd's words here, orienting your life around making a contribution, around meeting the needs of others is actually the key to finding personal satisfaction. If you really want to have a great life, help somebody else have a great life and watch what happens. Your joy is going to bubble up. It's going to maybe return if you've lost it. If you've been focused on yourself, I promise you, it's just going to lead to a self-centered life. And I don't know anybody who's self-centered that's really happy. I really don't. And I think if we're honest with ourselves, we will, and we're self-centered, we know that we're miserable at the end of the day. Miserable, somebody told me one time, comes from the same word as miser. A miser is somebody who's just grasping. They're trying to control everything. They want it all for themselves, versus the open-handed person who understands they've been given so much and they have this opportunity to bless others. And how amazing would it be if we lived our lives that way? Okay, so as we close the week here, I got my stack. These are some rereads for me, honestly. I've read them all. They've been great help to me. And I just think about all the books that have helped me think better, do better. I mean, so many things happen when we read books, and I want to encourage you to pick up one of these books that we've talked about this week and begin to read it. And get a couple of things I would say here if you're going to do that. Get yourself a highlighter, a notepad. I promise you're going to make some notes in these books, or you're going to need to make some notes on that notepad, and you're going to highlight them up, and you're going to have some things. But I would encourage you to do a couple things when you read. And I probably should have said this earlier in the week, but let me just give a little focus here on the idea of read, yes, but think about spending some time beyond the reading on what you read. What is it you need to do with what you read? And somebody told me one time, it'd be good if you had an hour to read, spend 30 minutes reading, and then 30 minutes thinking about what you read and what you're going to do with what you read. I think that's I don't know what the ratio is, but I do know it's not enough just to read the book and put it on the shelf and not take some action on it. That's why I've tried every day this week to give you some things to do here. And then the second thing I would say is you might even consider finding somebody to read with, maybe a friend or a family member, or I've got a group of guys we read. A lot of times we read books together, and we spend some time discussing those, thinking about them, how they apply, what we can do to be better. Because at the end of the day, it is about inner excellence. It not just excellence, but it's about what's going on. And I love that books change our hearts and they can change our actions. And I hope one of these books this week you'll pick up and it'll be helpful to you in your life and your leadership. Remember, winning begins at home. Love you guys. We'll see you on Monday.